A lot of people may not know this, Bitwig Studio is an amazing DAW when it comes to modulation. So what they have built in is the ability to take from 43 different modulators and use those to really modulate or most parameters available for different synths, effects units, so on and so forth. One modulation type they have here is the wavetable LFO. And this essentially allows you to use a wavetable to modulate parameters. Now, as you can imagine, an interesting thing you can do with wavetables is sweep through the wavetable, which will change the source of the modulation in very interesting ways here. This is very similar to the kilohertz plugin that's become pretty popular over the past few months, but essentially just a free way to do it in Bitwig Studio. Now, you can get all sorts of like really interesting effects on here. And you'll see we're essentially just modulating the filter cutoff in resonance for the both layers in this Korg Triton pad here. And what's nice is you get that visual representation of the waveform here, and you see that little white dot here that's showing you how the movement of the modulation is kind of evolving. Now, of course, we can come into the index here and change, right, the wave shape. But if we wanted to take it a step further, we could use an LFO here to modulate this position in the wavetable, right? So now you'll see that wave shape here changing and evolving dynamically in real time. So I could come in, slow this LFO way down. And then you'll see that wavetable's just morphing, right, very slowly in changing shape. Now, it is a bit of a tricky thing to dial in depending on the type of sound you're trying to apply this to. You know, some of the movements may be a little too jagged and sudden. And so I think with this, when you're using wavetable LFOs to modulate parameters, the name of the game is always like slow, subtle movement, unless you're going for something like very specifically designed to be, you know, like rapid and jaggedy, if that makes any sense. And then I could even come in here and just try out a bunch of different wavetables here. Now, of course, we can start to really modulate any parameter that you can based on the synth. So we can start to play with like pitch, for example. And pro tip in Bitwig, if there's a parameter you want to modulate, typically you can just click it in the synth UI, and then in the device down here, in the device rack or whatever we call it, if you can modulate that parameter, it'll actually show up at the top. So if I click portamento, here's the control for portamento. Now I can just apply modulation to that parameter. And then in the inspector panel, you're going to see all the parameters that the modulator is modulating. Now the cool thing here too is if I just change programs in the Triton, those modulations will still apply to that new program. So very easy to just go try different sounds and see the effect that modulation will have on it. Right, and then again, as I talked about earlier, if you go into some of these more like jaggedy, sequenced type wavetables, it's going to give you a more pronounced effect, again, based on the parameter you're modulating. Again, I think this tends to just work best on slow evolving soundscapes, pads, things of that nature. So just applying that same wavetable to the panning of both oscillators. And then of course, if we wanted to get even crazier here, we could use a wavetable to modulate the wavetable. So if we take off the LFO, and then we'll grab the wavetable up here to scrub through the wavetable. Yeah, so, pretty cool, guys. It's definitely something where you have to go in and like really fine tune and tweak these so things don't sound too crazy. But, again, that's up to you, the artist, depending on what you're trying to create. So definitely just wanted to show this off. Again, I know that Kilohertz product, great product, but if you have Bitwig Studio, you can do this wavetable modulation today with the stock DAW out of the box. So go try it out. It's a lot of fun, and let me know down in the comments what you think. Have a good one.